In this edition of Generations, we discuss the new Medicare ID cards being rolled out this year and next, and what's different about them. Why smart speakers like Amazon's Alexa are resonating with the baby boomer generation. And saving on your electricity bill. Winter may be over, but your bill can still go sky high. We'll give you some tips on how to make some savings. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith, and welcome to Generations, a new podcast for people of your generation. Today, we're talking new Medicare cards that are rolling out this year with Judy Jencks of the website seniorcenterct.org, as well as how to save on your electricity bill and why smart speakers are resonating with baby boomers like Amazon's Alexa and Google Home, and whether that's a good or a bad thing. But first, Judy Jencks is back with us on Generations to chat about the new Medicare cards that will soon be coming through the mail. Judy, great to have you back.
It's great to be back.
So a big change coming from Medicare. Tell us about it.
It is a huge change coming from Medicare. The Medicare cards traditionally had your Social Security number on there. They tell you don't carry your Social Security number with you, but there it is on your insurance card. So the government has finally heard what the people have said, and they're taking that off. There's going to be, it will be numbers and letters on your card, and that will be your new Medicare card. And the doctor's offices are all lined up for that to happen. So even if you don't have it with you, they'll be able to look it up.
Social Security numbers always a big issue here in the US because unfortunately fraud is perpetrated through people's Social Security numbers. So this is a unique number, isn't it? But
Yes.
You should still be mindful, obviously, about giving it out, I'm guessing.
Yes, you're going to be mindful of it. You also need to be mindful to look for it in the mail. They're going to look similar, but it's going to be more like a credit card than what you have now. My fear is that people are going to go through the mail. We just check our junk mail, and there we did. We just threw away our new Medicare card. In Connecticut, we're going to be getting them sometime after June of 2018, and different parts of the country will get them at different times. Also, you and your husband could get your cards at very different times. I'm not quite sure how they're doing that, but just be mindful and look for it.
I understand that the rollout is as early as April. So although you said we're getting them later here in Connecticut,
Right.
You should still maybe just keep an eye, from maybe April, just in case, I suppose.
Actually, it's a few days away when people will start getting them. From what I could determine, it will be around D.C., so the states around Washington, D.C. will be getting theirs first. Also, Alaska, California, over there will be getting them. So they'll be getting theirs within about a week, and then it will take at least a year for everyone to get them.
Now, another important thing, just like Social Security cards, you shouldn't really ever carry your Medicare card, should you, unless you're going for services. And I don't think a lot of people realise that because they just put it in their purse or their wallet and have it all the time, don't they? So you wouldn't sort of really recommend that, would you?
I find that very interesting. You're told numerous times not to carry it with you, but you never know when you're going to have an emergency, and then you need your insurance card with you. And I think now with the computer-generated identification on there, it's going to be better protected. I'm going to carry mine with me.
You are?
Yes.
Okay, because I read somewhere, I think on Medicare's website, that they sort of suggested that, don't carry it and maybe take a photocopy and then strike out all but the last four digits on the Medicare card, which I thought was interesting.
That's your Social Security number, but now with the new number, I don't know. I think we're going to have to wait and see what happens.
Don't go throwing out, check your mail. Don't think it's rubbish mail because you're going to be in trouble, I guess, if you throw out your new Medicare card.
You're certainly going to be in trouble. The only other thing that you need to be aware of is maybe from the time you got onto Medicare, you've moved. You need to make sure that Social Security has your current address. And you can easily do that just by going onto the computer, go to Social Security or Medicare, and they'll walk you right through updating your address.
Very, very good point, because people do move, and that's something that we forget to do, isn't it, from our driving licenses to everything else.
And let's say you retired 20 years ago, you might have moved 2 or 3 times and totally forgot that, gee, do they have my address?
Absolutely. Now, another thing we want to talk about, of course, winter is finally over, although the temperatures are slowly rising. Electricity bills. hugely expensive. I mean, services don't seem to get any cheaper. They just seem to get more expensive, don't they? So you've got some tips, because people, can help to keep that electricity bill down, because I think we think, well, winter's over, so it's not going to go up. But of course, then the air conditioning units kick in, and then everything else. So you can still get quite a fright and a sky-high electricity bill, can't you?
You can actually shop for your generation rate. And all you need to do is go on to Energize Connecticut. We'll show you the screen, and you will pick your utility company. You will tell them whether it's your home or your business, and then you will compare now and walk you through a few more steps. And it drops down a whole list of different companies that generate electricity, and you can pick and choose. They offer real bargains. You can get, let's say, 4 to 6 months of a very low electricity rate, and then what you do as that time frame is expiring, you just shop again and pick something. And you can get your electricity bill down to about $60 a month if you want to shop around. And you can use your smartphone, you can use a calendar just to mark so that you know that this cycle is expiring, and to go ahead and shop again.
Because that's the important thing to remember, isn't it? I mean, the open market, which is sort of a bit of a term that they use for this, which is great, being able to now buy it from other suppliers. As you say, you do have to be careful, because they've got these limited sort of plans. So, you don't want to forget that and then suddenly find your electricity bill has shot back up, because, of course, their 6-month special rates, over.
And when it does expire, what you're going to pay for electricity could be higher than your utility company. So you really do want to pay attention to it. It can almost sort of become a game, how much money can I save this year on my electricity?
And which is worth it, because, like I said, gas, electricity, oil, any of those sort of services just seem to keep going up year after year. So it really does pay to shop around.
It certainly does, and you save significant money. One of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that you're paying attention to the cancellation rate and the enrollment fee. I have always just picked the ones that don't have those, so that I don't need to. I didn't sign up for 6 months and only get the super bargain for 4 months, and then have a really high rate, because then there go your savings. You don't have any savings anymore.
The other thing, I suppose, that you can do, apart from obviously shopping around, is actually do things in your house as well, which seems sort of obvious, but sometimes it isn't quite so obvious. So there's been like a real big push on these LED light bulbs now. I mean, incandescent light bulbs seem to have become almost a thing of the past, although you can still buy them. But, I mean, they're good to buy, and so the price of those has been coming down as well, because initially they were quite expensive.
And you can even get those light bulbs on sale, or the light fixtures on sale. And it's amazing, if you were to go into Home Depots or Lowe's or some other store like that, how affordable they have become. Because at one time the light bulbs were crazy expensive, and they're not now. And they last for a very long time, so the investment is, probably a 5-year investment or longer that you're going to have the light bulb. One of the things that sometimes we don't think about is the heat coming off a light bulb. So with the old light bulbs that we all really liked, if you put your hand near them, it's like, whoa, that's pretty hot. An LED, you could virtually pick it up and it's not even hot. So it saves on your cooling costs.
And also, of course, over the past couple of years, they've introduced dimmable LED bulbs, which, of course, a lot of people have got dimmers in their home, couldn't use the LED bulbs initially. Now you can. And again, I think I was reading something on one of these websites that even if you dim a light bulb, and the new ones, it sort of almost can halve up to the energy use again by using the dimmer. So that's another good tip, is if you've got dimmers, obviously get the dimmable LED bulbs as well.
Yes, and a lot of our appliances now save a lot of electricity. The washers and the dryers, the microwave, they use a lot less electricity than they used to.
Yeah, I think that's like Energy Star is something that you need to look out for if you're thinking of buying sort of new appliances. But I know that, the website that you mentioned, Energize CT, is a very good resource for people in Connecticut, isn't it, to look up all of this sort of information?
Yes, and I'm sure every state has something like that where you can compare the generation rates.
Final thing we want to talk about today, smart speakers. Everyone seems to have them, or they're getting them. They either get them for their birthday or somebody buys them. And we're talking things like Amazon Alexa, Google Home, these devices that you can talk to and they talk back to you. An interesting article by Google, which is one of the companies which is making these, they've said that baby boomers are really resonating with these voice-activated speakers and looking at them as more than just a simple device. So much so that they're saying that they're almost seeing them as a sort of a companion. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I think it's the natural progression of things. Baby boomers were raised at a time when we were told that, we would honeymoon on the moon and we would have robots doing everything. And a robot then, was something that sort of scooted around the house. Well, we do have the robots doing those things, but it's just a speaker that sits on a table somewhere. It's the smartphone that you have in your hand. Those are your robots. And so when we look at Alexa and the Google and all of those things, it's just absolutely fascinating what they can do for us and with us. And some people are finding them to be like a friend or a relative, somebody to talk to.
Yeah, there was an interesting thing in the article that somebody actually called it an elative, like an electronic relative, which is a very interesting new word. I'm sure that will be making it into the dictionary at some point. The only thing I'm going to ask you this. Do you not think there's a slight concern that it could also isolate people, though? Because technology is a wonderful thing, but it can isolate people. So, do you have any concerns that people may not then go out and have sort of like more traditional conversations with people, and they might just decide to stick home and just talk to their smart speaker?
I sort of see that as twofold. So you have people who become naturally isolated because their mobility has decreased. They can't get out of the house. So then this is a way to stay in touch with the world. Then do you become so fascinated with your speaker that you want to go and tell people about it? Does it get you to go and want to talk to somebody? Will we somehow develop clubs or groups or something that will do this? Because if we think back to like ham radios, I don't know. Will this be something that grows a society of itself?
I think what's also interesting about this technology is, of course, they're constantly finding new uses for it. Again, in this Google article, there was one suggestion that said it could let, older folks know if they've taken their pills today or not. I mean, medication's very important. Doesn't matter what age you are. I mean,
right.
If you need to take medication, say you're diabetic, we all forget things. So I thought that was quite an interesting thing as well, that, it's actually like a little helper as well.
And from what I understand, you can hook it up so that maybe I forget my medicine and maybe I need to be reminded. Well, I can have a relative or a friend who can monitor whether I took it or not. So it doesn't even have to be somebody in the same house as me. Another thing that I found fascinating is that, let's say you're cooking a meal. It will do several timers and tell you, so the potatoes are done or the meat is done or put this in the oven. And so when you look at that kind of thing, you look at the medication, what can it help us remember and what can it guide us to do as perhaps we are failing and we can't do it ourselves?
And one thing I suppose to really consider about this, and when I said, is it a good or bad thing, just talking to a device, but if you do happen to say have lost a relative, a husband, a wife, or a partner, and maybe you don't have close family or friends. Mm-hmm. Loneliness is a big issue for older generation people, and like you said, especially if they've got mobility issues. So I suppose the upshot of this is, even though I've got concerns as is it going to isolate you, actually it could be a lifesaver.
It could be a lifesaver. And initially, we were thinking about this just as we age, but could it be the college student that has gone away, doesn't have friends, doesn't know what to do, but is used to Alexa, and Alexa helps them do that?
So have you got one?
No, I don't.
You haven't got one. So will you?
But I think I need one.
You're going to help you with your potatoes.
Well, actually, my husband and I do cook together, and sometimes we're looking between our phones and timers. Do we have enough of them? So that could be a really good thing.
Excellent stuff. Judy, as always, it's great having you on Generations. Thanks for joining us again.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
That's all from this edition of Generations. Don't forget to visit, of course, seniorcenterct.org to find out everything that you need to know of what's going on in your neck of the woods in southeastern Connecticut. And if you want to send us a topic to talk about or want to be our guest, of course, on the podcast, drop us a line by visiting the seniorcenterct.org website and go to the bottom of the homepage and click the How to Advertise with us. It will get you in touch with us. And from myself, Brian Scott Smith, thanks for listening. And of course, we'll catch you next time.